Hello, dear listener. Find your cozy nook wherever you rest tonight. Perhaps you are curled under a soft blanket or nestled against a warm pillow. I would love to hear where you are listening from. Share your city and the time in a comment, connecting us across the world. If this tale soothes your heart, a like or subscribe would mean so much. Now, take a slow, deep breath. Let your shoulders ease, your body melt into the bed, and let us journey to an ancient Mesopotamian kingdom. Circa 1000 BCE, are stepping into the life of Amara, a young queen of 22, her heart torn between the weight of her crown and a forbidden love. By the end, you will feel grateful for your modern comforts, your quiet room, perhaps a steaming cup of tea nearby. Picture waking in Amara's palace. The air is thick with myrrh and cedar, drifting through mud brick walls carved with lions and stars. Your bed is a low platform draped with fine linen, its weave soft yet heavy with responsibility. Morning light filters through lattice windows, casting intricate patterns on the tiled floor. Servants murmur softly, bronze vessels clink, priests chant in the distant temple. This is Amara's world, a place of power, peril, and hidden desires, where every choice is watched, every secret a risk. As you sink into your own warm bed, let us follow Amara through the shadows of her heart and the realities of her reign. The sun rises over the city of Eridu, its golden rays glinting on the river that snakes through Amara's kingdom, a lifeline of water and trade. The palace stands tall, its mud brick walls baked hard by the desert sun, their surfaces etched with lions, bulls, and stars, symbols of divine favor. Amara wakes on her low platform bed, its linen sheets cool against her skin. There, we fine but heavy with the weight of her role. The air carries the scent of myrrh burned in bronze braziers. To honor the gods, its smoke curling toward the ceiling. A lattice window lets in slanted light, casting delicate patterns on the tiled floor, their shapes dancing like the thoughts she cannot voice. She is 22, queen since her father's death 2 years ago, her crown a burden she wears with practiced grace but never ease. Amara rises, her silk robe rustling, its deep blue dyed with indigo from traders beyond the mountains. The robe is light, but the gold amulet at her throat, inscribed with the seal of Eridu, feels heavy, a reminder of her duty. Servants move quietly, their sandals whispering on the stone floor, their hands carrying trays of dates, figs, and barley bread. A young girl, Liluchu, offers a bronze cup of wine, its scent sharp and sweet. Amara sips, the liquid cool against her lips, and nods her thanks. The palace is a maze of corridors, its rooms filled with advisors, priests, and envoys, each with their own demands. Today, the court gathers to discuss a marriage alliance with Prince Enlil of a rival city, a union to secure trade routes and peace along the river. Amara's heart tightens at the thought, her fingers tracing the amulet's edge. She steps into the courtyard, the air warm with the scent of blooming date palms and roses, their petals vivid against the dun-colored walls. The fountain at the center murmurs, its mist cooling her skin as she passes. The palace hums with life, servants carrying water jars, scribes hurrying with clay tablets, guards standing sentinel with bronze-tipped spears. Amara's presence draws eyes, her every move watched by those who serve her and those who seek her favor. She is the queen, chosen by the gods, but her youth makes her vulnerable. Her decisions weighed against her father's legacy. The court expects her to marry Enlil, a man of 40, known for his ambition and cold demeanor. His city controls the northern trade routes, vital for Eridu's grain and gold. A marriage would bind their fates, but Amara's heart pulls elsewhere. Toward Kadir, a low-born scribe whose quiet voice stirs her soul. She enters the throne room, her sandals clicking on the polished stone floor, its surface gleaming under the light of oil lamps. The room is vast, its cedar beams painted with gold and lapis, their scent mingling with the incense burned for the gods. Advisors stand in a semicircle, their robes embroidered with threads of blue and crimson, their faces a mix of deference and calculation. The high priest, Shamash, steps forward, his beard grey, his eyes sharp as flint. "Your Majesty," he says, his voice echoing off the walls. "Prince Enlil's envoys arrive tomorrow. A marriage would bring peace, secure our borders, and please the gods." Amara nods, her face a mask of calm, though her hands clasp tightly beneath her robe. The air is thick with myrrh, its sweetness cloying, a reminder of the divine will she must uphold. She sits on the throne, a carved chair inlaid with ivory and mother-of-oath pearl, its weight grounding her against the tide of voices. The advisors speak of trade, of grain shortages, of raids along the river. Amara listens, her responses measured, her voice steady despite the storm within. A queen must be flawless, her decisions shaping the lives of thousands, from the farmers by the river to the priests in the ziggurats. But her thoughts drift to Kadir, who works in the scriptorium, his hands stained with ink, his eyes bright with knowledge. They met months ago when he delivered a tablet of laws to her chamber, his voice soft as he explained its meaning. Since then, they have shared stolen moments, reading poetry by lamplight, discussing the stars that wheel above the desert. To love a scribe is forbidden, a scandal that could unravel her rule, yet his presence is a refuge, his laughter a light in her shadowed world. The court session stretches long, the air growing warm as the sun climbs. Amara's advisors press their case for the marriage, their words circling like hawks. Enlil's city offers grain, they say, and protection from northern tribes. An heir would strengthen the dynasty, binding Eridu to its allies. Amara nods, her fingers tracing the throne's carved arm, its surface worn smooth by her father's hands. She thinks of her mother, dead in childbirth, her absence a wound that never heals. To marry Enlil would mean a life like her mother's, bound to duty, her heart locked away. She imagines Kadir's face, his dark eyes, his quiet smile as he reads from a scroll. The thought warms her, but it also sharpens her fear. A queen's heart is not her own. It belongs to the kingdom, to the gods, to the future. The session ends, and Amara escapes to her private garden, a small oasis hidden behind high walls. Date palms sway in the breeze, their fronds rustling, their shade cooling the stone bench where she sits. The fountain's murmur is steady, its mist catching the light like scattered jewels. A servant brings a tray of figs, their sweetness bursting on her tongue, and a bronze cup of wine, its aroma rich with spices. Amara sips slowly, her eyes tracing the roses, their petals red against the green. This garden is her sanctuary, a place where she can breathe, if only for a moment. She thinks of Kadir, of their last meeting here, under the stars, his voice, weaving tales of ancient heroes. His words were a gift, a moment of freedom in a life bound by duty. A soft knock breaks her reverie. Kadir stands at the garden's edge, a clay tablet in his hands, his tunic plain, his eyes cautious but warm. "Your Majesty," he says, bowing low, "the tablet you requested. It is a list of grain stores, a pretext for their meeting. Amara gestures for him to sit, her heart quickening, though she keeps her face calm. The garden walls shield them, but the palace is never truly private, its corridors alive with whispers. They speak of poetry, of the stars, their voices low, their words a secret shared in the fountain's shadow. Khadia's fingers brush hers as he hands her the tablet, the touch fleeting but electric. Amara feels the weight of her crown, its gold, heavy on her brow, but also the pull of her heart, a rebellion against her role. Their time is brief, the risk too great to linger. Khadia rises, his eyes lingering on hers. "We must be careful," he whispers, and Amara nods, her throat tight. He leaves, the garden gate closing softly, the fountain's murmur filling the silence. Amara sits alone, the tablet in her lap, its clay, cool against her skin. She thinks of Enlil, of the envoys arriving tomorrow, of the marriage she cannot refuse. The court expects her to secure the kingdom, to bear an heir, to uphold the god's will. But Khadia's voice echoes, his poetry a thread she cannot cut. The palace is a cage, its walls closing in, its eyes ever watchful. She returns to her chamber, the air warm with the scent of myrrh and cedar. Servants light oil lamps, their flames casting shadows on the carved walls. Amara sits at a low table, a scroll of poetry before her, its words Khadia's gift from a stolen night. She traces the inked lines, her fingers trembling, the papyrus, soft under her touch. The palace grows quiet, the day's work done, but her mind is restless. She thinks of her father, a king who forged alliances through marriages, his legacy now hers to carry. She thinks of her mother, whose life ended in a birth chamber, her sacrifice a warning. To be a queen is to balance power and peril, to hide desires behind a mask of divinity. The night deepens, the palace silent, save for the distant chant of priests at the ziggurat. Amara lies on her bed, the linen cool, the air heavy with incense. She thinks of Khadia, of the garden, of the stars they might share if her world were different. The fear of discovery battles the warmth of his memory, her heart caught between duty and love. She prays to Ishtar, goddess of love and war, for guidance, for strength. The oil lamps flicker, their light soft, and Amara's breathing slows, matching the rhythm of the river outside. This is her world, one of power and secrets, where love is a risk she cannot afford. Sleep begins to tug at her, softening the edges of her fears. The weight of the day settles like her silk robe, heavy but familiar. Her thoughts drift, blending the palace's quiet with the hope of tomorrow. The lamps dim, the stars unseen, as Amara drifts toward dreams, caught between her crown and her heart. The moon hangs low over Eridu, its silver light casting shadows across the palace gardens, where date palms sway in the warm night breeze. Amara stands by the fountain, its gentle murmur blending with the chirp of crickets, the air thick with the scent of roses and damp earth. Her silk robe, dyed deep blue with indigo, clings softly to her skin, its folds catching the moonlight. The palace sleeps, its corridors quiet, save for the occasional footfall of a guard or the distant chant of priests at the ziggurat. Amara's heart beats quickly, her hands clasped beneath her robe, as she waits for Khadia, the scribe whose forbidden presence has become her secret refuge. To love him is a risk, a spark that could ignite scandal, but in these stolen moments, she feels alive, her crown's weight lighter under the stars. Khadia appears at the garden's edge, his silhouette slim against the high mud brick wall, his tunic plain but clean, its linen pale in the moonlight. He carries a clay tablet, a pretense for their meeting, its surface etched with trade records. "Your Majesty," he whispers, bowing low, his voice soft but steady. "The tablet you requested." Amara nods, her eyes meeting his, their dark depths holding a warmth she cannot find in the throne room. She gestures to a stone bench, hidden by a curtain of palm fronds, and they sit, the fountain's mist cooling their skin. The tablet lies, forgotten as their words turn to poetry, two stories of gods and rivers, their voices low to avoid the ears of unseen spies. Amara feels the world shrink to this garden, this moment, the palace's walls fading into the night. Kadir's hands, stained with ink from hours in the scriptorium, move as he speaks, tracing the air with tales of ancient kings. His voice is a melody, weaving images of stars and heroes, of love that defies the gods. Amara listens, her fingers brushing the rose petals beside her. Their softness, a contrast to the hard gold of her crown, left in her chamber tonight. She wears only a simple circlet, its bronze warm against her brow, a small rebellion against her role. Kadir's eyes catch hers, and for a moment they are not queen and scribe, but two souls bound by words and longing. He reads from a scroll, its papyrus crinkling, the lines a poem of forbidden love, its verses echoing their own hearts. Amara's breath catches, her skin tingling as his words fill the air. The garden is their sanctuary, its high walls shielding them from the palace's watchful eyes, but danger lingers, a shadow beyond the palms. Servants gossip, priests whisper of divine will, and advisors seek any weakness to exploit. Amara knows the cost of discovery, shame for her, exile or death. For Kadir, and chaos for Eridu, yet she cannot turn away. Kadir's presence is a bomb, his laughter a rare gift in her world of duty. She thinks of the throne room, its air heavy with incense, its voices pressing her toward a marriage with Prince Enlil. The envoys arrive tomorrow, their words carrying the weight of trade routes and peace. But here, in the garden, Amara is free. Her heart open, her fears softened by Kadir's voice. He leans closer, his hand brushing hers, the touch fleeting but warm. "We must be careful," he says, his voice barely above the fountain's murmur. Amara nods, her throat tight, the reality of their risk pressing in. She thinks of Lilitu, the young servant who lights her lamps, whose eyes linger too long when Kadir delivers tablets. She thinks of Shamash, the high priest, whose prayers to Ishtar bind her to the god's will. A single whisper could unravel everything, turning love into scandal. Yet Amara cannot stop, her heart pulling her back to Kadir, to these stolen nights. She hands him a rose, its petals soft, its thorns hidden, a token of their secret. Kadir tucks it into his tunic, his smile a promise, and slips back into the shadows, the gate closing softly behind him. Amara lingers by the fountain, the moonlight silver on her robe, the air cool with mist. She feels the weight of her choice, the love she cannot speak, the crown she cannot escape. The palace is never truly asleep, its corridors alive with whispers, its walls holding secrets older than her reign. She thinks of her father, a king, who ruled with iron and alliances, his marriages forging peace but not love. Her mother's death in childbirth haunts her, a reminder of the sacrifices queens endure. Amara wants to be strong, to rule as her father did. But Kadir's face lingers, his poetry a thread weaving through her heart. She walks back to her chamber, her sandals silent on the tiled floor, the scent of roses clinging to her skin. Inside, The air is warm with myrrh, burned in a bronze brazier by her bed. Oil lamps cast a soft glow, their flames dancing on the carved walls, where lions chase bulls in endless relief. Amara sits at a low table, a scroll of poetry before her, its words Kadir's gift from their last meeting. She traces the inked lines, their curves delicate under her fingers, and feels a pang of longing. The palace is quiet now, the servants retired, the priest's chants faint in the distance. She thinks of tomorrow, when Enlil's envoys will arrive, their words formal, their eyes searching for weakness. She must play the queen, flawless and divine, hiding the heart that beats for a scribe. The day begins early, the palace stirring with the sun's first light. Amara dresses in a robe of crimson, its hem embroidered with gold, a sign of her power. Her crown, heavy with lapis and gold, rests on her brow, its weight a constant reminder. She moves to the throne room, where advisors and priests await. There, robes rustling, their voices a hum of expectation. The envoys will speak of marriage, of grain, of peace. But Amara's thoughts are with Kadir, with the garden, with the rose she gave him. She sits on the throne, its ivory inlays cool under her hands, and listens as Shamash speaks of the god's will. A marriage to Enlil would please Ishtar, he says, securing Eridu's future. Amara nods, her face calm, though her heart races. A servant enters, Liluchu, her eyes sharp as she sets a tray of dates and wine before Amara. The girl's glance lingers. A flicker of curiosity, and Amara's breath catches. Does Liluchu suspect? Has she seen Kadir's late visits? Amara sips the wine, its spice sharp on her tongue, and dismisses the thought. She must be careful, her every move measured, her secrets buried deep. The court continues, advisors debating trade routes, priests invoking blessings, their words a tide pulling her toward duty. Amara responds, her voice steady, her mask intact. But her thoughts drift to the garden, to Kadir's voice, to the stars they shared. Midday brings a moment of respite. Amara retires to her chamber, the air warm with cedar, the walls glowing with lamplight. She sits by a lattice window, the river, visible beyond, its waters shimmering under the sun. A scroll lies open, its poetry a whisper of Kadir's presence, its lines a secret only they share. She thinks of their last meeting, his hand brushing hers, his warning to be careful. The palace is a web of eyes, its servants loyal but curious, its priests bound to perdition. Amara knows the risk, the scandal that could topple her throne, but her heart will not let go. She imagines Kadir in the scriptorium, his hands shaping words, his mind weaving stories for her alone. The afternoon calls her back to duty. She meets with a merchant, his voice loud as he speaks of trade, his hands offering a gift of lapis beads. Amara accepts, her smile practiced, her thoughts elsewhere. The merchant mentions Enlil's city, its wealth, its power, and Amara's heart sinks. The marriage is a chain she cannot break, a duty she cannot refuse. She thinks of Kadir, of the garden, of the freedom she feels in his presence. The palace is her world, its walls both shelter and cage, its air heavy with expectation. She longs for the night, for the garden's quiet, for Kadir's voice to ease her fears. Evening falls, the palace settling into a hush. Amara dines alone, a tray of barley bread, figs, and cheese set before her. The flavors rich but simple. The air smells of myrrh, the lamps casting soft shadows. She thinks of Kadir, wondering if he is in the scriptorium, his hands busy with clay and reed. She imagines slipping to the garden, their meeting hidden by darkness, but the risk is too great tonight. Enlil's envoys arrive tomorrow, and the palace will be alive with scrutiny. Amara must be the queen, her heart locked away, her love a secret kept in the folds of her robe. The night deepens, the palace silent save for the river's distant murmur. Amara lies on her bed, the linen cool, the air thick with incense. She thinks of Kadir, of his poetry, of the rose tucked into his tunic. The fear of discovery battles the warmth of his memory, her heart caught between love and duty. She prays to Ishtar, goddess of love and war, for courage, for wisdom. The oil lamps flicker, their light soft, and Amara's breathing slows, matching the rhythm of the river outside. This is her world, one of secrets and power, where love is a flame. She must guard. Sleep begins to tug at her, softening the edges of her fears. The weight of the day settles like her silk robe, heavy but familiar. Her thoughts drift, blending the garden's quiet with the hope of tomorrow. The lamps dim, the stars unseen, as Amara drifts toward dreams, caught between her crown and her heart. The palace of Urdu glows softly under the dawn's first light, its mud brick walls catching the sun's warmth, their carved lions gleaming faintly. Amara wakes on her linen-draped bed, the air heavy with the scent of myrrh, its smoke curling. From a bronze brazier, the lattice window lets in a cool breeze, the rivers murmur a distant hum beyond the city. Her silk robe, folded neatly, lies beside her, its deep blue a reminder of her royal mask. She is 22, queen of a kingdom balanced on the edge of peace and peril. Her heart bound to Kadir, a scribe whose love is a forbidden flame. Last night's stolen moment in the garden lingers, his poetry echoing in her mind. But the weight of secrecy presses heavier today. The envoys of Prince Enlil arrive at noon, their words carrying the promise of trade and the chain of a political marriage. Amara rises, her sandals silent on the tiled floor, their star patterns dulled by morning shadows. She dresses in a crimson robe, its gold embroidery catching the light, her crown of lapis and gold heavy on her brow. Servants move quietly, their hands offering a tray of figs and barley bread, the fruit's sweetness sharp on her tongue. Lilichu, the young servant girl, lingers as she pours wine, her eyes curious, her silence unnerving. Amara's heart quickens, suspecting Lilichu has seen too much, perhaps Kadir's late visits to the garden. She dismisses the girl with a nod, her voice calm but firm, and sips the wine, its spice grounding her against the rising fear. To love Kadir is to walk a knife's edge, where a single whisper could spark scandal, topple her throne, or end his life. She moves to the throne room, the air thick with incense, its sweetness cloying as priests burn offerings to Ishtar. The cedar beams overhead gleam with gold, their scent mingling with the smoke. Advisors gather, their robes rustling, their voices a hum of anticipation. Shamash, the high priest, bows, his beard grey, his eyes sharp. "Your Majesty," he says, "the envoys of Prince Enlil await. A marriage will secure grain, gold, and the gods' favor." Amara nods, her face a mask of serenity, though her hands clasp tightly beneath her robe. The envoys enter, their tunics adorned with silver, their words formal as they speak of peace, of Enlil's power, of a union to bind their cities. Amara listens, her responses measured, but her thoughts drift to Kadir, to the rose she gave him, now hidden in his tunic. The meeting ends, but the court's eyes linger, searching for weakness. Amara feels their scrutiny, a weight as heavy as her crown. She retires to her chamber, the air warm with cedar, the oil lamps casting soft shadows on the walls. A scroll lies on her table, its poetry Kadir's gift, its words a secret she guards. With her life, she thinks of Lalichu, whose curious glance has haunted her all morning. The servant girl is young, loyal, but gossip spreads like fire in the palace. Amara summons her, her voice steady, her heart racing. Lalichu enters, her eyes downcast, her hands clasped. Amara speaks softly, offering a small silver bracelet, its links gleaming in the lamplight. "Keep my trust," she says, "and serve me well." Lalichu nods, her fingers closing around the gift, but Amara sees a flicker of understanding in her eyes. The bribe is a risk, but silence is worth more than silver. The day presses on, filled with tasks to maintain her image. Amara meets with a merchant, his voice loud as he offers lapis beads from distant mines. She accepts, her smile practiced. Her thoughts on Kadir. The merchant speaks of Enlil's city, its wealth a lure, its alliance a chain. Amara nods, her fingers tracing the beads, their coolness a fleeting comfort. She must appear eager for the marriage, a queen devoted to her. Kingdom's good, but in her heart she sees the garden, the moonlight, Kadir's hand brushing hers. The palace is a maze of eyes, its corridors alive with whispers. She thinks of Shamash, whose prayers bind her to the gods, and of the noble woman Inanna, whose sharp gaze misses nothing. Inanna, a rival for influence, has hinted at rumors, her words veiled but pointed. Amara's stomach twists, the fear of exposure a constant shadow. She visits the scriptorium, a rare move to see Kadir, her pretext a review of trade records. The room is dim, its air thick with the scent of clay and ink, shelves lined with tablets. Scribes bend over their work, their reeds scratching softly, but Kadir's presence draws her eye. He sits at a low table, his hands shaping words, his tunic stained with ink. Amara approaches, her robe rustling, her crown a distant weight in her chamber. She asks for a tablet, her voice formal, but their eyes meet, a silent promise, passing. Between them, Kadir hands her the clay, his fingers brushing hers, the touch warm in the cool room. "We must be careful," he whispers, and Amara nods, her heart aching with the truth of his words. She leaves quickly, the tablets heavy in her hands. The scribe's eyes following her. Back in her chamber, Amara feels the toll of secrecy. Her nights are sleepless, her dreams filled with visions of discovery, of Kadir's exile, of her own shame. She sits by the lattice window, the river's shimmer a faint comfort beyond the palace walls. A scroll of poetry lies open, its lines, Kadir's voice captured on papyrus. She traces the words, her fingers trembling, the ink a reminder of their stolen moments. The palace is never truly quiet, its servants always near, their loyalty uncertain. Amara thinks of Inanna, whose questions at court grew sharper today, hinting at late-night visitors to the Queen's garden. The noblewoman's smile was polite, but her eyes were cold, a predator sensing weakness. Amara must act, diverting suspicion before it takes root. She summons a trusted guard, Enki, whose loyalty her father earned years ago. The air is warm, the lamps flickering as she speaks. "Watch Inanna," she says, her voice low. "Report her movements, but tell no one." Enki nods, his bronze spear glinting, his silence a promise. Amara offers him a gold ring, its weight a seal on his trust. The act feels heavy, another layer of deception, but necessary to protect her secret. She thinks of Kadir, of their last meeting, his warning echoing in her mind. The palace is a web, its threads tightening around her heart. She must weave lies to guard her love, each one a stone added to the burden she carries. Evening falls, the palace settling into a hush. Amara dines in the great hall, a public act to quell rumors. The table is laden with bread, dates, and roasted lamb, its aroma rich with spices. Advisors and nobles join her, their voices a hum of flattery and ambition. Inanna sits across her, eyes sharp, her smile thin. Amara meets her gaze, her own smile practiced, her heart pounding. She speaks of the envoys, of trade, of peace, her words a shield against suspicion. The wine is sharp, the bread soft, but the meal feels endless. Each glance a test. Amara thinks of Kadir, safe in the scriptorium, his hands busy with clay, his heart tied to hers. She longs for the garden, for the fountain's murmur, for the freedom of his presence. The meal ends, and Amara retires to her chamber, the air thick with myrrh, the walls glowing with lamplight. She sits at her table, a scroll before her, its poetry a whisper of Kadir's voice. She thinks of Lalichu, of the bracelet, of Enki's ring, of the lies she spins to protect her love. The palace is a cage, its walls closing in, its eyes ever watchful. She thinks of Inanna, whose words today cut too close, hinting at secrets Amara cannot afford to share. The fear of exposure is a constant weight, her heart torn between love and duty. She imagines Kadir in the garden, the rose in his tunic, his voice a light in her darkness. The thought is a comfort, but also a pain, a reminder of what she risks. The night deepens, the palace silent save for the river's distant hum. Amara lies on her bed, the linen cool, the air heavy with incense. She thinks of Kadir, of their stolen moments, of the poetry that binds them. The fear of discovery battles the warmth of his memory, her heart caught in a storm of love and dread. She prays to Ishtar, goddess of love and war, for strength, for wisdom to navigate this perilous path. The oil lamps flicker, their light soft, and Amara's breathing slows, matching the rhythm of the river outside. This is her world, one of secrets and power, where love is a flame she must shield. Sleep begins to tug at her, softening the edges of her fears. The weight of the day settles like her silk robe, heavy but familiar. Her thoughts drift, blending the palace's quiet with the hope of tomorrow. The lamps dim, the stars unseen, as Amara drifts toward dreams, caught between her crown and her heart. The dawn breaks over Eridu, its light painting the palace walls with hues of gold, the river beyond shimmering like polished bronze. Amara wakes on her linen-draped bed, the air thick with the scent of myrrh, its smoke curling from a bronze brazier by the wall. The lattice window lets in a cool breeze, carrying the faint hum of the city waking, the distant clatter of carts along the riverbank. Her silk robe, folded neatly, rests beside her, its crimson folds a reminder of the role she must play today. She is 22, queen of a kingdom bound by trade and tradition. Her heart tethered to Kadir, a scribe whose love is a secret she guards with every breath. The court expects her to marry Prince Enlil, to bear an heir, to secure Eridu's future, but her heart rebels. Clinging to stolen moments under the stars, Amara rises, her sandals whispering on the tiled floor, their star patterns catching the morning light. She dresses in a robe of deep green, its hem embroidered with silver threads, her crown of lapis and gold heavy on her brow. Servants move softly, their hands offering a tray of dates and barley bread, the fruit sweetness, a brief comfort. Lili, too, the young servant, pours wine, her eyes cautious since Amara's bribe of a silver bracelet. The girl's silence is a fragile shield, but Amara feels its weight, knowing one word could unravel her secret. Today, she must visit the temple of Ishtar, offering prayers for fertility, a ritual demanded by the priests to bless her impending marriage. The thought tightens her chest. Her love for Kadir, a hidden flame that burns against the god's will. She steps into the courtyard, the air warm with the scent of date palms and roses, their petals vivid against the dung-colored walls. The fountain murmurs, its mist cooling her skin as she passes, her robe catching the breeze. Guards stand sentinel, their bronze spears glinting, their eyes respectful but ever watchful. Amara feels the palace's pulse, its corridors alive with servants, scribes, and whispers. The court expects an heir, a child to bind Eridu to Enlil's city, to ensure the dynasty's strength. The priests speak of Ishtar's blessing, their chants a reminder that a queen's body belongs to the gods, not to her heart. Amara thinks of Kadir, of his ink-stained hands, his poetry, and the garden where they meet in secret. The memory is a light, but it flickers against the shadow of duty. The temple looms ahead, its ziggurat steps rising toward the sky, its mud brick walls adorned with glazed tiles of blue and gold. Amara climbs the steps, her sandals steady, the air thick with the scent of sacred oils and burning cedar. Inside, the sanctuary is cool, its marble floor smooth underfoot, the statue of Ishtar towering, her eyes of lapis gazing down. Priests chant, their voices a low drone, their robes rustling as they offer bowls of incense and barley. Shamash, the high priest, greets Amara, his beard grey, his voice solemn. "Your Majesty," he says, "Ishtar awaits your prayers. A child will secure Eridu's favor with the gods." Amara kneels, her hands clasped, the marble cold against her knees. She prays, her words a whisper, asking for strength, for wisdom, but not for the child the priests demand. Her heart pleads for Kadir, for a world where love is not a sin. The ritual is long, the air heavy with smoke, the priest's chants echoing off the walls. Amara offers a basket of dates, their sweetness a gift to Ishtar, and a vial of oil, its scent sharp and floral. The priests anoint her forehead, their fingers cool, their prayers binding her to the goddess's will. She feels their eyes, their expectations, as heavy as her crown. The temple is a place of power, but also a cage, its rituals a reminder of her duty to bear an heir. Amara thinks of her mother, dead in childbirth, her sacrifice a shadow in the sanctuary's light. She thinks of Kadir, safe in the scriptorium, his hands shaping words, his love a secret she cannot share. The prayers end, and Amara rises, her robe brushing the marble, her heart torn between devotion and desire. Back at the palace, Amara meets Prince Enlil's envoys in the throne room, its cedar beams glowing under oil lamps. The envoys are formal, their tunics adorned with silver, their words heavy with promises of grain and peace. Enlil himself is absent, but his envoy, a man named Zaidu, speaks of the prince's strength, his city's wealth, the need for a union. Amara listens, her face calm, her hands clasped beneath her robe. The air is thick with incense, its sweetness cloying, a reminder of the temple's demands. She responds with care, praising Enlil's city, agreeing to consider the marriage. but her heart is elsewhere, with Kadir's voice, his poetry, his touch in the garden. Zaidu's eyes are sharp, searching for hesitation, and Amara feels the weight of her mask, the need to appear flawless. The meeting ends, and Amara retires to her chamber, the air warm with myrrh, the walls casting soft shadows. A scroll lies. On her table, its poetry Kadir's gift, its lines a whisper of their love. She traces the words, her fingers trembling, the papyrus soft under her touch. The palace is alive with whispers, servants gossiping about the envoys, the marriage, the heir. Amara thinks of Lilichu, whose silence she bought, and Inanna, the noble woman whose sharp questions hint at suspicion. The court expects a child, a dynasty, a queen who bends to perdition. But Amara's heart clings to Kadir, to the gardens, quiet, to the freedom she finds in his presence. Midday brings a public appearance, a necessity to quell rumors. Amara walks through the city, her guards at her side, her robe shimmering in the sun. The streets are bustling, merchants calling, children running, the air thick with the scent of baked bread and river mud. The people bow, their eyes filled with awe and expectation, their whispers carrying tales of the queen's beauty, her duty to marry. Amara smiles, her crown heavy, her steps measured. She stops at a market stall, accepting a gift of woven reeds, their texture rough in her hands. The merchant's wife speaks of Ishtar, of the need for a royal heir, her words echoing the priest's chants. Amara nods, her heart sinking, the weight of the kingdom pressing in. She returns to the palace. The air cooler now, the fountains murmur a steady rhythm. In her chamber, she sits by the lattice window. The rivers shimmer a faint comfort. A servant brings a tray of figs and cheese, their flavors rich but simple. Amara eats, her thoughts on Kadir, on the garden, on the risk of their love. She imagines meeting him tonight, their words hidden by the fountain's song. But the palace is too watchful, Inanna's suspicions too sharp. Amara thinks of the temple, of Ishtar's statue, of the prayers that bind her to a future she cannot escape. The expectation of an heir is a chain, its links forged by priests, advisors, and the people of Erid. Evening falls, the palace settling into a hush. Amara dines in the great hall, a public act to show her strength. The table is laden with roasted lamb, barley bread, and dates, their aromas mingling with the scent of myrrh. Advisors and nobles join her, their voices a hum of flattery and ambition. Inanna sits nearby, her eyes sharp, her smile thin. Amara meets her gaze, her own smile practiced, her heart pounding. She speaks of the envoys, of peace, of future, her words a shield against suspicion. The wine is sharp, the bread soft, but the meal feels endless, each glance a test. Amara thinks of Kadir, safe in the scriptorium, his hands busy with clay, his heart tied to hers. The meal ends, and Amara retires to her chamber, the air thick with cedar, the oil lamps casting soft shadows. She sits at her table, the scroll of poetry before her, its lines a whisper of Kadir's voice. She thinks of the temple, of the priest's prayers, of the heir she must bear. The pressure is a weight, heavier than her crown, heavier than the palace walls. She thinks of Enlil, a man she has never met, whose city offers grain but not love. She thinks of Kadir, of the rose she gave him, of the freedom she feels in his presence. The palace is a cage, its eyes ever watchful, its whispers a constant threat. The night deepens, the palace silent, save for the river's distant murmur. Amara lies on her bed, the linen cool, the air heavy with incense. She thinks of Qadir, of their stolen moments, of the poetry that binds them. The fear of discovery battles the warmth of his memory, her heart caught between duty and desire. She prays to Ishtar, goddess of love and war, for courage, for a path through this storm. The oil lamps flicker, their light soft and breathing slows, matching the rhythm of the river outside. This is her world, one of power and peril, where love is a secret she must guard. Sleep begins to tug at her, softening the edges of her fears. The weight of the day settles, like her silk robe, heavy but familiar. Her thoughts drift, blending the palace's quiet with a hope of tomorrow. The lamps dim, the stars unseen. As Amara drifts toward dreams, caught between her crown and her heart. The night cloaks Eridu in stillness, the palace's mud-brick walls bathed in moonlight, their carved lions silent under the stars. Amara lies on her linen-draped bed, the air heavy with the scent of myrrh, its smoke curling from a bronze brazier. The lattice window lets in a cool breeze, carrying the river's faint murmur, a steady hum beyond the city. Her silk robe, folded neatly, rests beside her, its deep green folds a reminder of the mask she wears. She is 22, queen of a kingdom, teetering between peace and peril, her heart bound to Qadir, the scribe whose love is a forbidden spark. Tonight, her sleep is restless, haunted by whispers of discovery, the palace's eyes closer than ever. A servant's careless word, a noblewoman's sharp glance, and the fragile web of her secrecy threatens to unravel. Amara rises, her sandals whispering on the tiled floor, their star patterns dim in the lamplight. She dresses in a simple linen robe, its cream color soft, her crown left behind to ease the weight on her brow. The palace is quiet, save for the distant chant of priests at the ziggurat, their voices a reminder of the god's unyielding gaze. She thinks of Qadir, of their last meeting in the garden, his hand brushing hers, his warning to be careful. The rose she gave him, its petals hidden in his tunic, is a secret they both carry, a thread tying their hearts across the palace's dangers. But tonight, danger feels closer, a shadow cast by Inanna, the noble woman whose questions have grown too pointed, her smiles too knowing. The crisis comes at dawn, as the palace stirs with the sun's first light. A guard, Enki, knocks softly, his face grim, his bronze spear glinting in the corridor's dim glow. "Your Majesty," he whispers, "Qadir was seen leaving your garden last night." A servant spoke to Inanna. Amara's heart lurches, her breath catching as the words sink in. The air smells of cedar, sharp and heavy, the oil lamps flickering on the walls. She nods, dismissing Enki, her voice steady though her hands tremble. The palace is a web, its threads tightening, and Inanna's knowledge is a spark that could ignite ruin. Amara must act, her mind racing to protect Qadir, to shield her throne, to bury the secret that threatens them both. She summons Lilitu, the young servant whose silence she bought with a silver bracelet. The girl enters, her eyes wide, her hands clasped tightly. "Did you speak of Qadir?" Amara asks, her voice low, the air thick with myrrh. Lilitu shakes her head, her voice a whisper, swearing her loyalty, but Amara sees fear in her eyes, a crack in her trust. She sends the girl away, offering a small gold ring, its weight a heavier bribe, a desperate bid for silence. The act feels like a stone added to Amara's burden, her heart aching with the lies she weaves. She thinks of Qadir, safe for now, in the scriptorium, his hands shaping clay tablets. unaware of the storm gathering around them. Amara moves to the throne room, her crimson robe shimmering, her crown heavy with lapis and gold. The court gathers, their robes rustling, their voices a hum of anticipation. Inanna stands among them, her eyes sharp, her smile thin as a blade. The high priest, Shamash, speaks of the god's will, of the marriage to Prince Enlil, of the heir. Eridu needs. Amara nods, her face a mask, but her heart pounds as Inanna steps forward, her voice smooth but laced with venom. "Your Majesty," she says, the palace whispers of late-night visitors. The gods watch closely. The court murmurs, their eyes turning to Amara, a weight heavier than her crown. She responds with care, her voice calm, dismissing the rumor as idle. Gossip, but her hands clasped tightly beneath her robe. The air is thick with incense, its sweetness cloying, a reminder of the temple's demands. Amara thinks of Ishtar, of the prayers she offered, of the heir she cannot yet bear. Inanna's words are a warning, a challenge, and Amara must act to divert suspicion. She calls for a feast tonight, a public display to affirm her devotion to Eridu, to silence the whispers. Servants are sent to prepare, their hands carrying trays of dates, bread and wine, the palace buzzing with activity. Amara speaks of trade, of peace, of Enlil's envoys, her words a shield against Inanna's gaze. But her thoughts are with Kadir, with the rose, with the love she cannot claim. The day is a blur of duties, each one a mask to hide her fear. Amara meets with merchants, their voices loud as they offer lapis beads and woven reeds. Their gifts a reminder of Enlil's wealth. She walks the city, her guards at her side, the streets alive with merchants calling, children laughing, the air thick with the scent of baked bread and river mud. The people bow, their eyes filled with awe, their whispers carrying hopes for a royal heir. Amara smiles, her crown heavy, her steps measured, but her heart is elsewhere, in the garden, with Kadir's voice. She thinks of Inanna, of the servant's word, of the danger that grows with each passing hour. By evening, the feast fills the great hall, its tables laden with roasted lamb, barley bread, and figs, their aromas mingling with myrrh. Nobles and advisors gather, their robes shimmering, their voices a hum of flattery and ambition. Amara sits at the head, her crimson robe catching the lamplight, her crown a beacon of her power. Inanna is there, her eyes never leaving Amara, her smile a quiet threat. The priests chant, their voices low, their prayers invoking blessing for the marriage, for a child. Amara raises her bronze cup, toasting Eridu's future, her voice steady, but her heart races. The wine is sharp, the bread soft, but the meal is a performance, each gesture watched, each word weighed. After the feast, Amara knows she must see Kadir, perhaps for the last time. She sends Enki to summon him, her message hidden in a clay tablet, its words a pretext of trade records. The night is dark, the garden quiet, its date palms swaying under the stars. Amara waits by the fountain, its murmur a steady rhythm, the air cool with mist and the scent of roses. Kadir arrives, his tunic plain, his eyes heavy with worry. He bows, his voice soft. "Your Majesty," I heard the whispers. "We are not safe." Amara nods, her throat tight. The rose's thorns, a memory in her heart. She takes his hand, the touch warm, forbidden, and speaks of Inanna, of the servant, of the danger they face. "We must part," she says, her voice breaking, the words a blade in her chest. Kadir's eyes darken, his hand tightening on hers. but he nods, his silence a shared pain. They sit by the fountain, their words few, their time stolen. Amara gives him a scroll, its poetry their final gift, its lines a promise of love that cannot fade. The moonlight catches her robe, its green folds shimmering, and Kadir tucks the scroll into his tunic beside the rose. They stand, their hands lingering, the fountain's song a farewell. Kadir leaves, the gate closing softly, the night swallowing his silhouette. Amara stands alone, the air heavy with roses, her heart breaking under the stars. She returns to her chamber, the air warm with cedar, the oil lamps casting soft shadows on the carved walls. She sits at her table, a scroll before her, its words now a memory of Kadir. The palace is silent, save for the river's distant hum, but the weight of her choice presses in. She has chosen duty, her throne, her people, but the cost is a piece of her heart. She thinks of Inanna, whose suspicions may fade with Kadir's absence, of Enlil, whose marriage looms like a chain. The priest's chants echo in her mind, their prayers for an heir, a burden she cannot escape. Amara's hands tremble, the papyrus soft under her fingers, the ink a shadow of her love. The night deepens, the palace hushed, the stars unseen beyond the lattice window. Amara lies on her bed, the linen cool, the air thick with myrrh. She thinks of Kadir, of his poetry, of the garden now empty without him. The pain of his absence battles the duty that binds her, her heart torn between love and sacrifice. She prays to Ishtar, goddess of love and war, for strength, for peace. The oil lamps flicker, their light soft, and Amara's breathing slows, matching the rhythm of the river outside. This is her world, one of power and loss, where love is a secret she must bury. Sleep begins to tug at her, softening the edges of her sorrow. The weight of the day settles like her silk robe, heavy but familiar. Her thoughts drift, blending the palace's quiet with the hope of healing. The lamps dim, the stars unseen, as Amara drifts toward dreams, caught between her crown and her broken heart. The palace of Eridu sleeps under a blanket of stars, its mud brick walls quiet, the rivers murmur a gentle lullaby. Amara rests on her linen bed, the air soft with myrrh, the oil lamps dim, casting shadows on carved lions. Years have passed, her crown heavier now, her heart scarred but strong. She sacrificed Kadir, her forbidden love, to save her throne, her people, her legacy. Yet his poetry lingers, a rose pressed in her memory, a whisper of courage. Amara's story, woven through secrets and sacrifice, echoes the resilience of women across time. Their strength a light in your cozy world. Picture her now, breathing slowly, the river's rhythm matching her own. Your bed, soft and warm, cradles you far from her palace's weight. Let Amara's tale guide you, her courage a thread connecting your heart to hers. Feel your pillow's softness, your blanket's warmth, so different from her linen and myrrh. Close your eyes, let worries slip away like whispers on the river. Sleep beckons, gentle and sure, carrying you to dreams. This is it, just like that. The day fading, your breath a steady rhythm as you drift into peace under the same unseen stars.